Hi there, it's Nicole from Mama Elephant, and today's card showcases a Happy Mail card using the Happy Mail stamp set as well as the incoming mail stamp set and the Venice envelope die collection. I kind of laid out my stamps and dies the way I thought I was going to use them, and then I've got a white note card here and I'm just creasing it with my bone folder. Now, in retrospect, I kind of wish I hadn't have done this because I am going to use some embossing paste with this polka dot stencil die from Simon Says Stamp. The problem is some of that paste actually got on the inside of the card, which you definitely don't want. So I ended up having to trim this as a front panel and adhere it to another card base. If I was doing this again, I would definitely just apply my embossing paste to a sheet of cardstock and then adhere it to my card base just so that I don't ruin a whole card again. I'm using a palette knife to apply this black embossing paste for a polka dot look. So nice dark black polka dots on a white background. I love the look of that. You could definitely achieve that with maybe black ink through the stencil if you don't have embossing paste. Even pattern paper that you have, or you can put ink or paint through the stencil. Lots of different ways to achieve that look. I'm going to set that aside to completely dry, and then I have trimmed a piece of vellum. It's a 2 inches wide piece. And then I did use the fine trimmings dies along both edges to give it a decorative stitched edge. I forgot to turn my video camera on, so I didn't catch that part of it. And then I stamped the Happy Mail greeting, that large greeting from the Happy Mail stamp set with some gold embossing powder. I love the look of black and white with gold. I've also die cut a banner from the Venice Envelopes die collection from some black cardstock. I used my powder tool on my banner. I'm going to position my greeting from the Happy Mail stamp set and then ink that up with some Versamark ink and stamp that on my banner. Once I have that stamped on my banner, I am going to use white embossing powder for this phrase. I love the look of white embossing powder on black. Once I have that all heat set, I'll lay that out, and I'm ready to stamp and color in my remaining images. I'm going to stamp the panda from the Happy Mail stamp set, or the incoming mail stamp set rather, sorry. Cute little panda holding a whole bunch of envelopes. I'm going to grab some Copic markers and color him in real quick. I'm using some very light colors of E0000, E00, and R00 to color in the quote-unquote white areas on the panda. Simply adds a little touch of color and just adds a nice look and feel to the panda itself so that it's not so stark white in those areas, especially when you go and color in whatever else might be with the image, in this case some cute envelopes. I'm using R35 and R39 to color in some of these. For this card, where I went with the black and white and gold theme or motif, I really didn't want to incorporate a whole bunch of different colors. I wanted it to keep somewhat elegant, I guess I want to say. The panda is pretty whimsical and cutesy, and so it's just kind of, I didn't feel like a whole bunch of additional colors were going to go with the rest of the card, I guess is what I want to say. So I mostly kept it to reds. I did use a little warm grays, very light warm grays, to color in the quote-unquote white areas on the letters. I'm going to use the coordinating incoming mail die and die cut my panda. Just like on my previous cards where I have colored in these pandas from the incoming mail stamp set, I am taking a black glaze pen and tracing over any of these solid black areas with my pen and coloring them in. The reason I do that, you can especially see it here when I'm up close, the areas that I've already colored as opposed to the areas, the legs there that I haven't, they look kind of dull. Once you add that black glaze pen, I think it looks so amazing. The black really stands out and it's just so much more vibrant, and I love the way it looks. Once the black is completely dry, I'm going to take a white pen and color in the whites of the eyes just in case I got any of that black pen in the whites of the eyes. Now I am taking a glue adhesive here. This is the Zig glue pen, adding little dots of glue along the stitching borders on my vellum panel and behind my embossed greeting, and I'm going to lay that over my background. Now luckily I did not secure it too much before I realized, while I used the vellum because I wanted that peekaboo look and I wanted to see the polka dots, I still think it makes the greeting a little hard to read. To fix that, I actually trimmed another piece of vellum that is about 1/4 inch thinner, and I'm going to slide that underneath the top vellum border. This is kind of where I discovered that I thought it needed a little something else. And I'll slide it underneath there and secure it. And that way, the 2 layers of vellum, it's still going to be that peekaboo look. Here you can really tell that difference, but the greeting is much easier to read. So if you ever have that happen where you want the vellum look so you can see through it, but you still think maybe your greeting or whatever's on the forefront's a little hard to see, layer a couple pieces of vellum together and it's going to mute it just enough more that it's really going to make your greeting, or like I said, anything else on the forefront, pop. Next to my greeting, I'm going to attach my cute little panda holding his handful of letters. And then I'm going to stamp the mailbox from the incoming mail stamp set and one of the single letter images, and color both of these in with Copic markers as well. Again, not going to go crazy adding a whole bunch of new colors or anything like that. Going to keep to my color scheme, so everything's going to be pretty much red or neutral. The little heart on the envelope will be red. The mailbox itself is going to be in my 2 shades of red, the R35 and R39. The letters are all going to be just kind of a little bit of gray to give them a tiny touch of color. Just pulling in my darker color on the edges of my mailbox. Really simple shading and coloring. Nothing crazy going on here. Light warm gray in 0, 1, and then just a tiny touch of 4 because I felt like it needed a little bit more shading close to where the letters are sticking out of the mailbox. Very tiny bit. Didn't even really blend that out. And then I'll use E57 and E49 for the mailbox post. E57 is a nice chocolate brown. E49 is going to be a nice deep dark brown. It's definitely brown, but I think it'll work good enough to kind of even give it that darker feeling. You can really see how dark it is here. I'll even color in the little mailbox flag with the E49. I didn't bother to shade that at all. Go ahead and use the coordinating dies. I'll tape those in place over both of these images and die cut both of these using my Sizzix Big Shot. I'm going to use some of those mini Zots Bling glue dots to attach my mailbox and letter to my card. Just line those up there next to the cute little panda and have one of those letters on the ground like maybe he dropped it. I'll go ahead and flip over this whole panel and trim off that excess vellum from that layer I put underneath the embossed greeting layer. And this looks really good as is. Now, I mentioned earlier I had to trim this down or trim this from a card base because I got that black embossing paste all over the place. I'm just going to trim off about 1/8 inch from a couple of sides, and that way I can adhere. I think maybe instead of 1/8 inch, I did end up trimming 1/4 inch off. So that's going to give me a nice little border on all 4 sides. I can attach that to my card base just like that. Go ahead and move all that out of the way. I'll take a nice strong adhesive, put that on my card base, attach my panel, and then I decided to finish with a scattering of some cute little Pretty Pink Posh gold mini heart confetti. Not a ton, just going to have a little trio of them over there on the left side of the card where there's not quite as much going on. Going to have one on my greeting banner, and then just a little scattering of them over there close to the Panda Bear up above as well. I like to use the Ranger Multi-Matte Medium to attach those. Thanks for joining me for this card showcasing the Happy Mail stamp set from Mama Elephant. The supplies I've used are listed and linked below the video on YouTube. Here are a couple more Mama Elephant videos you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.